Fire, Ma, your kosher clinician. You know, I once said that a hopeless man is a broken man, and a broken man is a dangerous man. This is a short clip by K.Samuels. He's made some very excellent points as it relates to the mental health of many Black men and women in our community. Therapy is essential to the mind as milk is to the fortification of the bones. There was a commercial back in the past called Got Milk. But the question that poses on today is, do many people have therapy as it relates to helping them do the shallow work of the pains and the trauma that they experienced in the past? Listen to this. As a licensed clinical therapist, it is very important that people address the healing of the body, soul, mind, and spirit. But oftentimes, because of the stigmatization of therapy, many people don't go get the help that they need. I want you to listen to what this man is saying because he makes some very good points. And while I don't necessarily believe that every person 100% unequivocal will need therapy, there are some legacy burdens that are more or less left behind that a lot of people have not addressed. Until they address those parts as it relates to family systems and as it relates to sometime molestation, post-traumatic stress disorder, and trauma, people will continue to go through that negative cycle of having those things unresolved. I started this journey back in 2009, and I did it more or less as a means to more or less help inspire men, especially men of color. I want you to listen to what this man is saying and form your own opinion as we are all traversing through this critical maze called life. Listen in.
Give me a break. I was born with a father who was out doing what he was doing. Papa was a Rolling Stone, you know. God bless his soul. You know, my mother did the best she could with what we had, you know. My story is like anybody else's story. Functions of poverty, you know, issues from childhood. I'm not special. I'm not special, any more special than anybody else. The difference is you got to give yourself a break, man. Give yourself a break. Give me a break, and you got to break these cycles. So many of us did not get what we needed in childhood, did not get what we needed in our formative years.
And this more or less parrots what I said earlier, that a hopeless man is a broken man, and a broken man is a dangerous man. You know, a lot of times people tend to excoriate men that more or less exhibit violence or any other type of malfeasance through self-medication. But a lot of men are broken because they have not given themselves a break or the time to heal. When you think about the great teacher Jesus often went to a place of solitude to heal. And many times until we find that place of solitude, we will continue to go in that negative cycle until we can break that systematic and more or less generational curse. Keep listening.
Did not get what we needed when we decided to go to college and relationships and this and that. And the bottom line is this: you're not following my content because you don't want something. And the thing you want is likely being the better version of yourself. You notice when I tell people you attract what you are, and you hate the things you are. It's because I've sat there and have had to do that work, that intensive work, that uncomfortable work, the work that comes along with having to be vulnerable in front of a therapist, in front of a counselor, to sit there and talk it out, to understand that you bring you to every situation that you're in. And
the work that he's talking about is, some therapists call it shallow work. Shallow work are those dark spots that a lot of times many men and women are not aware of. And some therapists call it, or psychologists call it the Johari window. In that Johari window, there's the private self, the public self, the known self, and the unknown self. But many people hide who they are based on the pain that they went through. You know, that goes back to the song in the 70s by the late Teddy Pendergrass. He said that you can't hide from yourself. And when you learn to more or less introspect and do the shallow work, the brokenness and the healing that you need to recover can actually become manifest. Many people hide behind degrees, they hide behind money, they hide behind fame. But behind that mirage is a broken man and boy or girl, and they have not learned to heal due to the negative outcomes of the past. I'm 100% sure that when men and women learn to heal, they can get the outcomes they deserve and the outcomes that are necessary to help them overcome the pain of the trauma, whatever it might be. Keep listening.
You don't do the work, I could drop you in the middle of the situation you say you want. I could drop a woman in a room with 100 high-value men wanting to get married in under a year, and they'll blow it. Conversely, I could drop 100 men in a room full of feminine, beautiful, inspirational women wanting to be cooperative and submissive to a man, and you'd blow it because you haven't given it, because you can't give yourself a break. How many of you guys have really decided to do the work to break these cycles? Meaning tonight, Saturday night, how many of you gonna go do the same shit you've been doing all the time? You're gonna go out with your girlfriends and go to the same spot, same club, same thing, gonna have the same outcomes. You're gonna go out with your homeboys, do the same thing. Or you're gonna sit at home and do nothing. Why don't you give yourself a break? Why don't you do something different? Why don't you go ahead and break the cycle and become the man you want to be? Become the woman you want to go by yourself. Remember when I said you're going to have to do it scared, or do it afraid, do it alone, do it unsure, without a guarantee? The only thing you can guarantee is your effort. That's why I say that real high value men and women appreciate one thing about people more than anything else. They try. They try. They try. They don't make excuses. They don't make excuses. They don't accept the problems. My mama didn't do this. My last relationship didn't do that. This didn't, and that didn't happen. All that shit's over. Today is all you have anything to do with, and what are you doing with it? And so many of us got our head down in the sand, stuck thinking about the future or the past, not in the present. Give yourself a break. Give yourself a break today and say, I'm going to be present. I'm going to get out of my house today and I'm going to go sit somewhere around human beings and be present in the moment. Talking about stuff that's in the moment, not worrying about the future, not worrying about the past, not worrying about a bill, not worrying about this. Be present. And you'd be amazed at what.
And sometimes that moment that Mr. Samuels is talking about is what some therapists actually call an existentialist crisis. In that crisis, people begin to ponder, especially as they get to the latter parts of their life, what is my meaning? What is my purpose? And normally that tends to come to men and women during midlife, but also after they find out they don't get the normalcy or the pleasantries that they got in their youth. And so sometimes you have to take the time to reflect and look back over your life and ask yourself the question, have I actually lived my life on purpose, or am I more or less just coasting through life? Keep listening.
What you could get out of relationships, out of people in the world, because with all this communication potential we have, we are the most communicated, non-communicative people we ever had. We got more ways to communicate and people still can't communicate because you're not present. Then you run up on somebody who is present in the moment and it scares you. You're like, oh shit, this is new. What, they made eye contact, they smiled, they shook my hand. Come on, man. Give yourself a break. Gentlemen, break the cycle. Do something you never thought you'd do. Step to that woman who's you find attractive. Forget all the red pill, this pill, that pill, showing interest, high value, this. Carry your ass over there and start a conversation. She's human. Her shit stink just like yours. Ladies, when a man walks over to you, stop acting like your ass is up on your shoulders. You know he stepped to you because he's attracted to you. And he wants to see if he can raise your interest enough to have a relationship, possibly sex. Why don't we act like we know what's going on? Because we haven't given ourselves a break. We still playing these roles, playing these games, and like a bunch of fucking robots on autopilot for self-destruct. And then you look around at people who seem to be having a higher quality of life, better outcome, because they're deciding to break it up. Break it up. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to try. You don't have to get it right. You just got to try. And I will tell you this, if you decide to give yourself a break, if you decide to try what scares you, if you decide to try what you fear, what you failed at, you will sleep the sleep of the just tonight, because at least you will say, I tried. I didn't win, I tried. Versus living a life of regret. That is the one thing I refuse to do in my life. I will fail. I will fail, 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 but I will not regret. I will risk. I will fail, I will risk, I will try, but I will not regret. Because when you are taking...
And that brings something interesting that Mr. Samuels is saying. In the psychosocial stages of development, Erickson talked about 2 stages before death, and it's called generavity versus stagnation. Generavity means people are actually generating their best interest in life, more or less living their best life. But stagnation means that they have faltered or more or less been broken due to a schema affliction. That's the word schema affliction is the word that I curate or more or less combined based on the things that a person is going through. A schema in the clinical terms is a fixated way of thinking, and that affliction is often due to the pain of the past due to unresolved. But as you get closer to my age, and as you get closer to the grave, if you don't learn to address those schema afflictions, then you will become stagnated instead of being more productive. So the guy's making some great points. He doesn't really understand that he's actually manifesting some of the psychosocial stages of development from his comments. But what he's saying is probably what many people have said unknowingly as well. Keep listening.
In your final breaths, you're not worried about anything other than, did I make the most out of this life? Or do I have a life full of regrets and fears and things I didn't try? Fuck that. No regrets, no fear. Ladies, stop living life on fear mode. Make yourself vulnerable to the kind of men you say you want. Gentlemen, stop living life on fear mode. Make yourself available to the kind of outcomes you want. Give me a break. Give yourself a break today. Peace out.
So excellent. That was an excellent expose, and he's, I would say, almost 100% correct in everything that he said. You know, life is fleeting, and that's why I decided to do this show called The Manhood Chronicles, but also The Kosher Clinician, because there are 7 principles that a man must go through in order to become an optimized male. I want to give you a break. I want you to talk about those unparalleled or more or less those challenges in your life that you have not more or less addressed. I want you to email me at kosherclinician@gmail.com to talk about the mental pathologies that you are actually dealing with. Email me at kosherclinician.com to help give you a break to deal with the challenges that you're dealing with. And I want to shout out to my man E. Spencer and my man Al Greaves. They provide an excellent opportunity. You know, world travel is one of the 7 steps that a man must do in order to become optimized. And you got to learn to step outside of your comfort zone to break that percentage of men that don't have a passport. Get your passport. Live your life on purpose. And don't be on your deathbed with regrets because you were not willing to step outside of your comfort zone. And I want you to remember this. If it ain't 7, it ain't kosher. If it ain't kosher, it ain't right. I want you to give yourself a break today. Go beyond, strive to reach at the highest points of the mountain. And don't let people set limits on your life, because only you sometimes can be your greatest enemy. Be well.